back to your favorite podcast on the planet, Realty Talk. We're in a new room.
We are. It's so exciting.
Very exciting.
Coming along. We've got more enhancements coming in this room. So this is just like phase one.
The beginning.
Yeah.
Some new space. Mm-hmm. To my left, we have CEO, founder of Innovate Realty, Suzanne Sini, also known as Queen of the Closing Table. And I am Paul Hansen. I run Buy House, a single-family fix and flip business. Therefore, I have been named Paul Fix It All. I have to fix a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. But we like to do extended intros because we have lots of new listeners. So that's a little bit about us. We're excited to get feedback from you. But we have a jam-packed agenda today.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because we wrapped last week's podcast, and I would say it was more of a lighter week. We were just kind of talking through the usual small updates, and then we talked a little bit about our businesses. But like as soon as we wrapped, it was like big real estate news again. So, a few weeks back, maybe months back now, we had a really big merger in the industry, or acquisition, whatever you want to call it, between Compass and Anywhere. So everyone was talking about that. What does that mean? And then last week we had another merger acquisition situation coming through. Acquisition. This one is like acquisition, very clear. And it is with RE/MAX and Real. So everyone's been talking all about it. What does it mean? And, I think that one kind of surprised me, to be honest. I know RE/MAX agents, and I know a lot of Real agents. And we've actually talked about Real on the podcast way back, just because, we were actually a little nervous about Real and just, where they were going to be and, how they were spending and, all the things. But this is super interesting because RE/MAX agents and Real agents, in my opinion, are just very different agents. I think I see RE/MAX agents kind of as like, I don't want to say the word old school because that's not the right word, but it's like, I would say kind of independent, top producing, just very different than the way I picture and see a Real agent. So I think it's really interesting to merge that together and come up with something new. So
yeah, it's I'll give my 2 cents as well because I think I can provide some color.
I know. I don't know, the right way to say this. They're just different personality types.
I've never been a real estate agent, and Innovate is the first brokerage that I've been a partner in. So I'm still learning a lot about the brokerage business as a whole. But when I read that news in my head, I think of things visually.
Yeah.
And to me, when I think of RE/MAX, no offense, but it's like it's like that 6-unit strip mall in a building that was built in like the 50s or 60s that hasn't really been maintained. That's where the RE/MAX agent has their office. I get mailers in like the Saver Plus packet, and that's where I see their agents. Yeah. Real doesn't have offices, and my public perception of who they are has been like a tech, loose quotes, enabled recruiting firm, more like a multi-level marketing approach. Like they heavily focus on rev share, putting caps on agents, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So you're taking two very different cultures. Like RE/MAX traditionally is franchise. So these locations are owner operators. They've been agents before. They write a check to RE/MAX and now they own their geography or their region. And Real is like kind of on the opposite side of that. So they're two very different cultures to try to bring together.
And interesting because they're two different business models, really,
Very different.
I mean, not to say that RE/MAX agents don't recruit agents, but I think I would just say they have had kind of different focuses for quite some time. So Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, in my opinion, I feel like this is all kind of related to what's happening with the MLS, with the listings, and, you know, really trying to set themselves up for the future when it comes to, you know, if there is no longer an MLS. So, you know, having access to a ton of listings, which, I mean, that's the route Compass went. I think that's a huge part of what they did and what they're doing. And I think, you know, we're seeing other brokerages kind of, you know, make those considerations and maybe do the same thing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a slightly different vantage point. I see Real burning tons of money. They have to grow. If they don't grow, they're going to die. And so they, on paper last year, when you look at the math, I think they were the fourth largest brokerage in the U.S. from a total sales standpoint. RE/MAX is number 7. And so they're probably looking at it like, hey, if we don't grow aggressively somehow, like make a huge splash, we're going to die. And that these recruiting efforts of picking on onesie, twosie agents is probably not the kind of growth that's going to take them to the Holy Land. It's that incremental growth curve is really difficult. You know, so early on, it was probably simple for them to grow by 100% year over year. But going in and adding another 100% growth this year would be virtually impossible, I think. So I view this as maybe, you know, an effort to not go out of business when you're losing lots of money.
Yeah. The cap, I mean, they do offer caps. And I think, you know, we've talked about that. It's really difficult because, you know, it's, we feel that we want agents at our brokerage that want to continue to grow, that want to have access to all of the things that we're able to provide to them, but those things cost money, you know? And so I think if you are going to a brokerage with a cap or with just, you know, maybe a small fee, you have to kind of know that your brokerage isn't going to provide you with a whole lot. And I think, you know, I guess that is something that they actually have in common, where RE/MAX agents, most of the time it's like a fee, a fee that they pay to RE/MAX, which is why I have that perception of just kind of the solo operator. RE/MAX isn't doing a whole lot for them except for the name RE/MAX. But I mean, as you said, that name that you associate you know, other things with maybe isn't doing anyone any good. It's interesting.
Let's slow down and double click on one thing you just said, which is a cap, because I think, you know, whether you're a new agent or if you're listening and not a real estate agent thinking about joining, what is a cap and how does that affect a real estate agent?
Yeah. So a cap just means that an agent, you know, produces a certain amount of business, and after they pay their brokerage, you know, X amount, then the brokerage doesn't collect anything else from that agent.
Right.
So, you know, we have found that we want agents to be really motivated. We want our agents to want everyone to do well. And I think it creates a different environment when we're all in it together, you know? And also, I think, you know, looking at us specifically through our lens, it's we're providing a lot, and we want our agents to be successful and do more business. And we invest a lot of money into that. And so, you know, what would the brokerage's motivation be if they weren't making money off of an agent anymore? You know, it just doesn't seem like incentives are aligned, and, you know, it creates kind of, you know, animosity from one way or the other, I think. And the brokerage, I mean, not to say that they're not incentivized, but they're, you know, at that point they I mean, does it matter to them if you do 10 more deals?
Well, I imagine for those brokers, because a typical cap, you know, is going to range between 25 and 50 grand or something. So if you're on a cap at Real, you're a top producing agent and you've gone out and done a bunch of volume in the first half of the year, and you essentially gave them 50 grand, or their 20% stake was worth 50 grand on the commissions that you generated. Every deal after that, you're not going to be paying them a dime. You're going to take the rest outside of service fees or transaction fees or whatever. And so that brokerage, to your point, doesn't have an incentive to really support or grow the number of transactions. But what they do probably have is an incentive to really push on you to recruit other people, right? So when you look at the brokerages that have caps or are known for caps, they're generally recruiting heavy brokerages, but they're not generating leads that then distribute down to the agent base. So it's just probably a different, kind of value proposition to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Where at Innovate, we're very focused on trying to create opportunities.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense for us if we had, 200 agents and 50 of them capped out. We would never give one of those agents that had a cap a lead that we generated if we weren't going to get any income back from the lead.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Yeah.
So I imagine that might be different too. Maybe the lead type changes the cap or something. I don't know. But I'm excited to see how all of that, how all of that goes.
Yeah.
From a branding standpoint, and just, being in business a while, watching two cultures blend together, even when they're completely aligned, is really hard to execute.
Right.
When they're not aligned or just very different, man, it seems like it's going to be a big undertaking.
Yeah.
The news that I read about the overall transaction would be that both the back offices, support, and operations would be consolidating and potentially moving.
Yeah.
So you're jamming two operational cultures together, possibly moving them, and then you're taking two brands and trying to figure out what that's going to look like. It seems like a crazy undertaking.
And, nothing against either brokerage, but I don't look at Real as a big tech heavy brokerage. Like, the things that I've heard are that it's okay. Like, the agents don't have too many issues, but it's also, not, there's nothing super innovative there. So it's just really interesting. And we'll see where it goes. I know the deal isn't completely finalized yet, and who knows, they got to work a lot of things out, but it does kind of indicate that our industry is making some moves, know? And I think that 60% of real estate agents out there are actually at independent brokerages. Yeah. So I think that, if we're going to take anything from this, I think that we should look at this like maybe independent brokerages should work together as well, should work together a little closer. We've always been of the mindset that, the abundance, right? And we always work really well with any brokerage. We open our doors to a lot of other agents that are at other brokerages and try and help them. And, we do this podcast every week. We share a lot of information. And I think that all the independent brokerages have the same opportunities to share information. So if there are some big shifts with the MLS and, I think that there's definitely opportunities out there for the independents to share listing information just as everybody else would. And I think, keeping the consumer in mind for all of it is, what's going to kind of carry the future, because the consumer should have access to all listings, no matter, what brokerage, independent or not. So I think, there might be some opportunity there for the independents as well.
Yeah, I think I can't wait to fast forward a year or two and see how all this shakes out. To me, it's very much so driven by total transaction volume is down at a national level. Brokerages that are public have to grow. Shareholders want a return. If they're still losing money, then they've got to find a way to grab more of the market. And so if the total addressable market is shrinking, total home sales are shrinking on an annualized basis, and we don't have any sort of foresight into interest rates going down to drive market, to move a little faster. If that's where you're at and you're in that position, then you've got to roll up your sleeves and find a way to grow,
somehow,
in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's why I think these other transactions are happening, and additional pressure from these MLS shifting, dynamics or whatnot. That
Plays
to
a
me
role.
likely is how you justify the deal.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this deal from a top line standpoint is $880 million. It's a $1 billion transaction, or just shy of $1 billion transaction. I think when you combine 4 and 7, number 4 company and number 7 company are probably going to be second or third largest in the U.S. But again,
yeah. Where do you go from there?
yeah. How do you grow beyond that point?
Yeah.
And you're already public. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, should be interesting. So, market-wise, though, I think today bond 10-year went up a little bit.
Yep.
So I think rates ticked up a bit. But I did see something interesting that we're at a 6-year high for foreclosures. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think that's kind of expected, and it's been ticking up, but
Yeah.
we're seeing more of those.
I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We're starting to see foreclosures from 2 veins or locations in Southern California that traditionally haven't been the beginning of the foreclosure market. So a lot of times you see banks starting to unloan paper. These are property tax liens and HOA liens.
Yeah.
So both of which were probably due to 2020 COVID hits. Moratoriums were placed where a homeowner wouldn't have, or a county, for example, wouldn't have the ability to go and foreclose on somebody's property if they were delinquent on property taxes.
Right. Yeah.
And then the same for homeowner associations. And now those moratoriums are lifted. If consumers weren't in a financial position to catch up on whatever balance they owed, those weren't things like 30-year mortgages where they just tacked it on to the last, I guess the moratoriums that were placed on first liens on mortgages would say, if you have a 30-year mortgage with 20 years left and you owe 20 grand that you didn't pay during COVID because you lost your job, then we're just going to extend out that 20,000
Move it
at the very end of the 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Taxes are different. Like the local municipalities need the tax revenue, the income,
Right.
to balance their budget, and HOAs also have the same problem.
Yeah.
And so they're now getting very aggressive to try to get that income, to balance their budgets. And so, I saw actually just this morning, I had a deal that was floated on my desk that was an HOA situation. Consumer had made all of their mortgage payments, but just stopped paying their HOA fees for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
The HOA is going to get the house back.
That is crazy. It's crazy how much power the HOA has. Like,
Yes.
it is crazy.
I mean, all things to consider where, when you're buying.
Yes, so important.
Yeah.
I think I've said it before, but I always encourage, join your board if you can, because decisions are being made, and sometimes not for the right reasons,
Yeah.
So it's really important to be involved with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, big or small.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the smaller it is, the more important it is.
Yes, exactly. Like the property that you had where it was like 3 friends or, in the building.
Yeah, I can't speak much about that one, but we did a deal where there were 4 total units in a building.
Yeah.
We bought one of them. The other 3 ran the HOA. And once I'm past that.
Yeah. We'll have a whole episode.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it seems like market is, doing what we thought it would be doing at this point in the year. I mean, I guess in fairness, I thought at the beginning of the year we'd probably see a better producing spring, with rates being kind of flat. We're essentially hovering between 6 and 6.3% on the 30-year fixed mortgage for a long time now.
Yeah.
And I mean, a little bit of variation here and there.
Yeah.
But so I expected the spring selling season to be a little faster than it has been. But as of a month ago, I've kind of acknowledged, okay, this spring is going to be just slow. But we're still getting a lot of foot traffic at deals that we have on market. We're seeing offers regularly on stuff. I think the most, insightful or the data point that makes me feel the best about what's happening is that our repeat visitors at a property are going up. So 9 months ago, we would have a bunch of people through an open house, but none of them would ever come back for a second or third showing on their own. But private showings and B-backs are coming up aggressively, on all of our inventory. So that to me indicates that we have really intentional buyers out there. They may still be a little picky and they may still be a little conservative on pricing, but they are going to buy something versus just kicking tires.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think we have another celebrity real estate segment.
I can't wait. This one is great.
Okay. So Angelina Jolie lists her historic LA estate for nearly $30 million. So she reportedly listed it, formerly owned by legendary filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille. Conversation is really just about she is now planning on spending more time in Cambodia. So once her youngest turns 18, that's the plan. But it is a historic estate, and there's some celebrity and film history there. It's in one of LA's most iconic luxury neighborhoods. And so this one, it's kind of like what we were talking about, where it's $30 million, and it's really about the emotion and the story of the house, not so much the house. Yep. So it's interesting. We don't know, where this is going to trade or what's going to happen. But what we've seen and even what we've been covering over the past few weeks when we talk about these is that, I don't know, do you think that the story matters? Do we think that, that's going to make a difference?
I don't know. I think it just depends on the type of property and then the buyer. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, we bought a property. I think we've talked about this a couple different times on the show, but we bought a property that had a story to it. It was a horrific story. There was like a double murder. And we were really nervous when we went back to market that there would be any level of interest because we still had to disclose that occurred.
Yeah.
And we had 5 or 6 people that wanted to buy the house just because that had happened there.
Yeah.
I don't think they could have cared less about the actual structure. They just wanted to live in a house where murders had occurred. And I'm like, that seems so odd.
Yeah.
And so I think there are some, different people out there. I don't know if you say different or weird or unique or whatever, that just want to have the feeling that they can live in something that's got history behind it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that matters when you're, paying $30 million.
Yeah.
I think that can be, we always go back to how many qualified buyers can buy this.
Yeah.
The property I had was like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird people that could pay $1.5 million for a second home or whatever, right? How many people can spend $30 million to live in the house that Angelina Jolie used to own or live in or whatever?
Yeah.
So it's a much smaller market. So I think that buyer is probably going to be more intentional around the value of the asset, or is it going to appreciate? They're going to probably care a little bit less about the history.
Right.
That's my gut.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I think we, at that price point, from what we have seen, I mean, it is a historic estate, which is, I think, a little different. Like there's something to that. But, we've been talking about it every week where it's like, it didn't matter Ben Affleck's house. And, so I think at that price point, we're just seeing people lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Or, maybe list a little higher than they should.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's a couple of things that we should unravel. Number one, when you buy something in that area of LA for $30 million, the seller essentially is going to be, or buyer, depending on how this gets negotiated, paying an extra 5 to 10%. So there's $3 million right off the top that just gets evaporated going into the city with the luxury tax. There's going to be a step up in basis. I don't know what she specifically paid for this, but if somebody does buy it for 30, their property tax bill is going to be at that number, it'll be $330,000 a year.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly more. So there's just a lot of money that evaporates.
Yeah.
And to me, the most important thing that you just covered was that it's a historic designated home, which means that you're not going to be able to go in and change everything. We've bought a lot of historic property in LA, and it depends on the jurisdiction. Some have this thing called an HPOZ, which is like a neighborhood HOA. Others are deemed historical through the city.
Right.
But if that's the case, then you can't make material modifications to it without getting approval from everyone.
Yeah.
Which is likely not going to happen if it's historic.
Yeah.
So you're buying a $30 million thing that's going to look like the $30 million thing.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems
we'll see. I guess stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Okay. Well, with that though, fun fact that I learned today. So we know that Angelina Jolie, I don't know why I can't say her name today. Her dad, we found out is
John Voight.
John Voight.
Yes.
And there are some we learned some fun facts about maybe him helping the administration, helping Hollywood.
Yes, I went to an event in LA. I guess this was maybe a month ago. He was there at Paramount Studios. He spoke to a group of us for about an hour. Sweetest guy on the planet. Amazing story. He went to college.
Angelina may disagree. I don't know. I think there's some bad blood there. So
it seems like it. Yeah.
Okay.
To me, he had this story of going to college, not really knowing what he wanted to do, but he's very intellectual. He's reading a lot, studying art and all this stuff. And, somebody went and won, I can't remember the guy's name, but won an Academy Award or an Oscar. And he was on a college campus reading a book, and he's like, that's what I'm going to do. And then, later he actually won an Oscar, and the gentleman had reached out that inspired him to be in that space, had reached out to him the night before, and they had this touching moment and all this stuff. He actually, the night that he won his Oscar, that gentleman was awarded like the Lifetime Oscar Award.
Oh, wow.
So it's just kind of this full circle thing. But he was an interesting guy. I mean, whatever political side you're on, there's a lot of heat behind all of that now. And so, Trump brought him on to essentially be or lead, this Hollywood revival. So he's the ambassador to Hollywood. And, for the rest, I didn't know any of this, but until a few weeks ago, but most, films, TV shows, even 5, 10, 15 years ago were being made in LA or at least in the US. So they were being produced there, and they may go shoot at a location or something. But it's become incredibly expensive to do that.
Right.
And so, people are going overseas to Ireland, and they're going to, in US, some locations like Utah and Colorado and places of that nature, those markets are offering credits to film in those locations. And so they're trying to bring that revival back where everything gets made here in Hollywood.
Got it.
And, they're fighting for a tax credit, which was confusing to me. I mean, if you're going to go and create this box office hit, and it's going to gross, $100 million.
Yeah.
If your cost is $20 million to go and make the film, they're choking right now on, a difference of 5 or 10% on that cost. And so they're going outward, which obviously I understand because they don't know if it's going to be a box office hit or whatnot. But that's what we're seeing happen.
Yeah.
And they're fighting to find a way to have that come back.
Got it.
And the argument is, the unions and the number of people with jobs and all this other stuff. But it was really interesting. At no point during that whole, it was maybe an hour that we interacted with him, got to ask a lot of questions. Did he even reference Angelina Jolie? And so we actually looked that up at the beginning.
You're like, wait, I just saw that guy.
Yes. It was very, very interesting.
Cool.
Okay, last question I have for you. What is your favorite Angelina Jolie movie?
Oh, okay. Well, what's really funny is you said it earlier for you, but it is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think that was, that's probably the only one that I really liked. I wasn't really into Tomb Raider. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm super excited. Yeah, Salt. I don't know though. I'm going to stick with Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I thought it was good. She was stoic. I mean, I like Brad Pitt a lot.
Yeah.
But she seemed more like aggressive and powerful in that one. Like she wore the pants.
Yeah, dynamic. But wait, that's where they met, right? Or not not where they met, but like where they fell in love.
Yeah.
So I feel a little guilty now.
They fell in love kicking each other's asses.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Okay. All right.
I think that's a wrap.
Yeah,
we covered a lot.
Yeah.
If you haven't done so, please hit the little subscribe button out. It helps us a lot. Share with family, friends, other agents you're in the middle of deals with. And don't forget to follow us on all the socials. And if you're an agent or becoming an agent, check us out at Innovate.
See ya.